Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red flare, the bomb burst, staying there, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Or the land of the free and the home of the brave, of the brave, of the brave.
Us on Facebook.
I liked it on Facebook.
Follow us on Twitter. INSiiGHTS.
Yeah.
2 I's in the middle. INSiiGHTS.
All right, y'all.
Now, Rick, which one of them scared you more?
I love Flavor Flav. I mean, he's a part of one of my favorite groups of all time, Public Enemy. But that was just atrocious. I think Carl Lewis even said that was bad. And if you ever seen Carl Lewis sing the national anthem, oh Lord, hey, give me strength. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Mm, mm, mm. That was scary. That was Halloween scary. Yes.
It said it couldn't happen to a better song.
Oh my gosh.
Marvin Gaye, he ain't.
Marvin ain't. That's what. Oh my gosh. Whew. But seriously, that's one of the toughest songs to sing because it has such a scale to it that it's amazing what Whitney did at the Super Bowl. Just simply amazing. And what Marvin Gaye did in LA during that game.
Hmm.
That's why they transcend because that song is hard. It's it's tough. You won't hear me ever trying to sing it solo.
Yeah, I hope so low we can't hear it.
No go. No
And he
go.
sang it a cappella with no background, no nothing, just okay. I love y'all because you just keep sending it to us. And, oh, just keep sending it to us. We appreciate the fact that you send us the videos, the things that you send us off social media. We just ain't never hear about him being able to sing like that. And just the guy
Rap,
he
yes. Rap.
wanted. He said people who can sing anything.
Facts.
Yeah,
Facts.
people who
Facts.
can sing. Yeah. No,
Mm,
no,
mm, mm,
no
mm.
argument on that whatsoever. Rick, what you got for us today on Did You Know?
Coach, I've been going back and forth with these, man. Been going back
Uh-oh.
and forth. You know, Jerry Rice has the most receiving yards after the age of 40 with 2,169 yards. Pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, Coach, did you know or do you know the player who was second on that exclusive list?
Mm-mm. I know it ain't me.
It is Tom Brady with 6 yards receiving. He caught a pass. Yes. Yes, he is second on the list. And third
Oh,
on the list, is Brett Favre with minus 2 yards receiving. Having said that, Jerry Rice is the only receiver to have caught a pass over the age of 40. The other two were quarterbacks.
oh,
Kind of
leave it
interesting.
to you.
Kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. All right. So this one, you know, with all the attention on San Antonio rookie 7'4" center Victor Wimbayama, it brought back some memories for me, Coach.
Being
Coach, did you?
7'4".
No, being 4'7". But no,
Oh,
no, 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 no. Coach, did you know the Washington Bullets had the tallest NBA players ever in Manute Bol and George Mursar? They were both 7'7", as well as the shortest NBA player ever in Muggsy Bogues. In fact, Manute Bol and Muggsy Bogues, God darn it, Manute Bol and Muggsy Bogues, both they played together on the Wizards on the Bullet squad. I want to call them Wizards. Jeez, it didn't help the Bullets win a title, but you know, they had the shortest and the tallest players in the NBA of all time. So yeah, whatever.
Rick, the
Say
things
Muggsy
they
Bogues.
do to
Bogues.
be on your show.
Hey, look, you say Muggsy Bogues and Manute Bol 3 times real fast. Say it one time. But that's what I got, man. That's what I got.
Rick, I don't know about you there, boy. I don't know about you.
Hold on, Coach. Hold on.
Uh oh.
All right, we good now.
Now you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we good.
Okay. Long as you good, that's all I wanted to hear, Rick. That's all I wanted to hear. One of the things that has been bothering me, as we talk about doing things for the community and things, is the issues we're having with our government, with us being able to educate our people about their own worthiness, the history of the past, the things that we have done. And, it's almost like when you're on the plantation and you weren't able to be taught to read and write, they don't want that energy about educating us about us, least of all anybody else, because they like to say you need to forget about that and move on. But I took a page from our churches where they said they were going to have to teach from the pulpit. And we always talk about the platform that we have and how to utilize it effectively. So, we got something here. 3 a.m. on July 25th, 1916. Garrett Morgan's phone rang. The voice on the other end tells him there's been a natural gas explosion in a waterworks tunnel about 4 miles off Cleveland's shoreline and 120 feet below Lake Erie's surface. Many men are trapped and likely dead from smoke inhalation, including several initial rescue crews. Morgan may be the only survivor. The reason, a little invention called the Morgan National Safety Hood. Morgan arrives at the water, an offshore structure that collects lake water for onshore needs, wearing the beige safety hood with breathing tubes sticking out of it, but still donning his pajama bottoms, something that's normally worn today and wouldn't raise an eyebrow. He goes into the depths only with his brother Frank and a few other souls, including Cleveland Mayor Harry Davis. Don't think that Morgan's going to be able to do much to save him. Tense moments tick by. Finally, a figure comes from the dark hole, barely holding a conscious man. Morgan found a survivor. After hours of search and rescue, 8 more men are saved, but 22 perished in what would become known later as the Lake Erie Crib disaster. At the scene, the mayor hails Morgan as a hero and his safety hood for saving lives. Yet many people in the newspaper fail to mention Morgan's name. Months later, when the Carnegie Hero Fund Commission hands out awards for the day's heroics, he doesn't receive an award. Why? Because Morgan is a black man. Morgan watched firefighters struggle with smoke inhalation when he got the idea for a safety hood. Filed in September 1912, the patent for his breathing device shows a picture of a hood with a long tube running out of it to the floor. The idea was to provide the fire with a means to supply himself at will with fresh air from near the floor, at the same time forcibly removing smoke or injurious gases from the air tube, the patents would say. Today, this invention is often called a precursor to the modern gas tank, but is actually closer to what modern-day scuba divers wear. Despite the ingenuity, Morgan had trouble selling the potentially life-saving equipment. It seems that the white fire chiefs didn't want to buy a product made by a black inventor. Making friends with financier J.P. Morgan, the Cleveland inventor sought him out for advice. J.P. Morgan told him remove the Garrett A from the Morgan and just call it the Morgan safety hood, not the Garrett A. Morgan safety hood. In other words, he told the inventor to remove himself from his own product. He also hired white actors to do the selling at firefighter conventions. At one point, Garrett Morgan even dressed up like an Indian chief during creative demonstrations. Cynical or not, the plan worked. Garrett Morgan sold a hood to fire departments across the country and won a contract with the United States Navy. By 1970, the year after the Lake Erie crib disaster, the hood was standard equipment for the U.S. Army during World War I. One morning, Morgan was experimenting with lubricating oils to keep fast-moving hot steel needles in a sewing machine from burning the fabric. At lunchtime, he wiped his oily hands on a lambskin cloth. Arriving back at his workshop, Morgan found that the hair on the cloth where he wiped his hands were immaculately straight. It seemed whatever oils he was using had relaxed or broken down the fibers of the hair. He decided to borrow his neighbor's Airedale Terrier for a test. The product worked so well that the neighbor thought the dog wasn't his and wouldn't take it back. After trying it on himself, he was ready to take G.A. Morgan's hair refiner on the road. The straightener became Morgan's moneymaker, and he sold it around the country. The stuff was more popular among men than women. They all wanted to have that Rudolph Valentino look. Born in Paris, Kentucky on March 4th, 1877, Garrett Morgan was the seventh of 11 children. His mother, Elizabeth Reed, was of Indian and African descent and the daughter of a Baptist minister. His father, Sidney, was formerly enslaved person, freed in 1863, was the son of John Hunt Morgan, a Confederate colonel. Morgan's mixed race heritage would play a part in his business dealings as an adult. Morgan was hired away from a competitor that made him the company's first black machinist. There he met a Bahamian Sheik immigrant seamstress named Mary Hassick. She was white. When their relationship was discovered, they were given a choice, either knock it off or leave. They decided to leave. The two married, opened a children's clothing shop. Garen built and maintained the machines while Mary sold the garments. Later, he opened a Morgan skirt factory. The business ventures allowed the couple to buy a home on Harlan Avenue. A historical marker there is currently being refurbished. Garrett Morgan, first black man in Cleveland to own a car, he worked on his mechanical skills and developed a friction drive clutch. Then, after witnessing a carriage accident at a particularly problematic intersection in the city, he created a new kind of traffic signal. This one had a warning light to alert drivers they would need to stop. Morgan quickly acquired patents for his traffic light in the United States, Britain, and Canada. He eventually sold the rights to General Electric for $40,000. Once again, learning from past experiences that he might have problems selling it himself as a black man, he got $40,000 and let somebody else handle it.
I knew he was. I knew the traffic light. Oh, I thought I knew the traffic light. But when you were going on with the other stuff, I was like, maybe that isn't the same guy. Wow, a heck of an inventor. Hey, Coach.
That he ran across as an accident, fixing that and creating that and the oils on it. And they said he did an experiment on a neighbor's dog, and the neighbor said, "That ain't my dog."
What you do
keep
with my
that
dog?
What you do with
Yeah,
my
that ain't my dog. That's
All right,
funny.
you
That
just
was
hold
funny.
on to that one, you know. So it
That
was an
that was funny.
interesting story.
Mm.
But I wanted to be able to do something to to enlighten people a little bit more about historical facts. You know, my dad taught Black history in the high schools. And when I would travel, I would always find him literature in the bookstores that, wasn't highly placed in the more popular readeries, readeries. So, and that was one of the things that bothered me when he passed. I was not able to get those books and things from his wife to be able to keep them, because some of them were really pretty good there. But moving along a little bit, we have an interview with Coach McCullum, a friend of the program. He's pretty much the same all the time. Whenever we're doing games, he always speaks, always talks to us. A number of his players that, we kind of discussed as we saw them in INSiiGHTS competitions. And lo and behold, we would see him on the Rattler basketball squad. But they're having an event today in the Lawson Center, the men and women's basketball teams, and they're having an event. So we taped our segment with him yesterday because he wanted to make sure that he was on the show and that we got a chance to talk. And from having Coach McCullum on before, Bobby could talk. So we ended up in a extended interview, and we have it in its entirety up on INSiiGHTS magazine, where we were able to keep all of it. But we clipped some of it so that people could see some of what we talked about, because it was again an enlightening interview with Coach McCullum. Ladies and gentlemen, with me today, I have Coach McCullum, the FAMU men's basketball coach. And we had him on a few months ago, and he was so excited about this upcoming season and the talent he had coming on. In fact, when you heard it here on INSiiGHTS, it hadn't even been released yet. So we try to bring you the story before it becomes a story. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, you still had that excitement? I know we go through a stage as coaches where the kids coming in have that honeymoon period. You look at all the positive things they could do, and then after a few weeks, you start looking at the things you got to work on. So, where are you with them now, Coach?
That's well said on your behalf, and I must say you speak like a coach. And of course, once a coach, always a coach. But you're exactly right. And realistically, as you want to be optimistic always. Mm-hmm. And of course, but as you mentioned, after I think the last time you and I, since we last spoke, we had him on campus in the summer for 6 weeks, and we had all but maybe two of our players here during that 6-week period, a period that was extremely beneficial. And Mickey, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before or not. We used that period to sort of put our offense in, mm-hmm. because offense takes a lot longer. From learning the offense, learning not only to go here, go there, do this, don't do that, but I think the why of things is more important than the how of things. But teaching them the offense, finding out who can do what. You have all of these ideas when you recruit them of what they can do, but now once you get them here, it's totally different, because oftentimes we see them in a practice setting. We'll see them in a game or two, usually not more than 2 or 3 live games, situations like that. And so once you get them here and you try and incorporate them in your system, then you get a much better handle of what they can and can't do. So it's also a learning experience for me and the staff in terms of who can do what, where we can play this player, where we can play that player. So that period was very beneficial, and quite frankly, it's still going on. And so there are some areas that we were optimistic about that we may not be quite as optimistic anymore. And then there are other areas where we are extremely optimistic. So overall, I'm really excited about the upcoming season, and just because I think this team has so much potential.
Okay, and Coach, as you know, I have to say I sometimes ask unfair questions because I've had some experience in it a little bit, not always a positive experience, but experience in it. Coach, how difficult is it for you to prepare your team for the non-conference schedule and then the conference schedule, and you got you almost have two different ways of playing it sometimes? It just, how difficult is that? People just think, well, you just go from the non-conference schedule into the conference schedule, and it's not that big an adjustment. But you have a lot of things that you have to deal with in terms of the caliber of play, the talent you're facing, and all of that, and then play SWAC basketball, which is almost a completely different brand, though exciting brand of basketball than what some of the Power 5 schools may play.
Again, I don't want to just continue to say this over and over and over, but most questions you ask, Mickey, are going to be just great questions. And I certainly, I prefer the type questions that you ask, because I don't look at those as being put on the spot. I like talking to people who are knowledgeable about basketball, as opposed to getting some canned question that's not applicable at all. And so I really appreciate that. What I would say is that oftentimes when I am posed a similar question, it's posed as if we have an advantage from our pre-conference schedule going into this to our schedule, but we don't.
Right.
Because all of the remaining schools in this WAC, they play a very similar schedule.
Right.
Now, so simply put, to the audience that may or may not be familiar with this topic, for the most part, those games are called guarantee games, where we receive a nice paycheck for playing those games. And every now and then we come out with a win. Now, a topic we'll address a little bit later in the show, the Pac-12 SWAC Challenge.
Absolutely.
Now, those games are not considered guarantee games. There's no funds involved in those games. But in addition to those games, we're still playing other Pac-12 teams, other Power 5 teams from other Power 5 conferences. So again, because all of the teams in the league are playing those games, there's no advantage for us. So we all go in to conference play, tried and true, knowing a whole lot about our teams, having played against some of the best competition in the country. So one of the biggest concerns is trying to make sure that your players are not the margins of fee are not so great that they don't weigh on damage to the players, the psyche.
Absolutely.
Coach,
let me say this. Let me interject this. One of the things Coach just said is he's playing 2 guarantee games in the same general area. He doesn't have to leave the hotel, and he's not driving or flying all over the country, as some teams have done in the past, and be in one location and go all the way across country to play another one, or in some cases just play one game. And being able to put 2 games on that same time period is advantageous for travel, expenses, your team settling down a little bit in a place that they can at least know where we're going to go eat. We're in the same hotel room. I mean, all of that has an advantage to it because you're not always able to do that, Coach. So I just had to interject that's actually some good scheduling there to be able to pull that off.
It really is. Now, we'll have a very similar situation later on in December. Now, we'll be out of classes for the semester, but yet being able to stay in the same hotel and still minimize the amount of travel. This one's a little bit even more unique, Mickey, from the standpoint we're going to play Iowa and Iowa State back-to-back days.
Back-to-back days.
Back-to-back days.
Okay.
Now that's rare, unique, quite challenging. But I accepted that for a couple of reasons. One, because we as coaches, we try and put our players in situations that's going to prepare them for a similar challenge they're going to have down the road. Case in
Like
point,
the SWAC conference tournament.
you just nailed it.
Right.
You just
Right.
nailed it. So
Mhm.
we'll play the University of Iowa on December 16th, but we're not playing them in Iowa City. Now, many of our audience don't know much about the geography of Iowa. I'm not going to pretend I know a great deal, but just time I spent in the Midwest and in coaching in both the Big Ten and the now Big 12, I have some similarities, a little bit familiarity with the state. But we're playing Iowa in Des Moines. Des Moines happens to be about 30-mile drive from Ames, Iowa. So we can stay in the same hotel, and the next day we'll play Iowa State. And so our game on the 16th against Iowa would be an afternoon game. We're actually playing the prelim game, if you would, to Iowa's women.
Wow. Wow.
About
Wow.
different coaching staff, 4 years apart. Iowa State was the one Power 5 program that we've defeated during my tenure here. December 31st of 2019, we actually beat Iowa State by 70-68 during that season. I'd be remiss if I left that out. Great opportunity and great challenge at the same time.
Okay, Coach, since we're talking about guarantee games, there's two trains of thought on it. I've seen programs that, have a certain amount that they have to bring in. And sometimes they do it with as fewer games as possible for large paydays. And then sometimes they play more games for smaller amounts against perhaps not with the top 20 programs. And some of the incentive they use is that in some places they allow them a certain amount if they go over that to be able to use it for different things. And I'm not even asking you about that, but I'm just asking you about how do you decide which way you want to go? If you want to go with as fewer games as possible against those very good teams, or do you try to play more games against teams that you might have a fighting chance against?
Another very good question. We for the most part, we take the approach of trying to play the least number of games that we can play while accomplishing meeting the monetary
requirement
contractually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually the case. Now there are exceptions. Sometimes if say for example an MTE stands for multiple team event, where there are a number of teams in an event, and the event doesn't always take place in one location. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Use the rule for MTE is that the event has to be completed within 10 to 14 days. So play one game and then come back a week or 10 days later and play another game. And it's all a part of what's called a multiple team event. Now that's something that happened after you got out of coaching, Mickey.
Yes, I heard the MTE. I said, he's going to give me some knowledge now.
So what I like, if you play in the MTE, you're allowed to play 2 to 3 additional games that you otherwise play. So, for example, this season.
So your maximum number of games just got increased because the teams in the MTE count as one game against your schedule.
So if we play MTE.
Okay.
So we could play 29 regular season games.
Okay.
If we play in a 2-game or 3-game MTE, now we could play 30 or 31 games. And so I like to use an MTE, preferably to take the team to some very attractive location, geographical location. For example, we played an MTE in Montego Bay, my second year here. A trip that our players would treasure for life. And the accommodations were firsthand. We stayed in a 5-star resort right on the ocean. As a matter of fact, that was the event's second year. The initial year, Florida State played in the exact same event. We stayed in the exact same hotel they stayed in. I like to point those things out because far too often, players tend to feel like we are second class, we're less than. Now, having said that, we don't mislead them to think that we're those other programs, but we do things in ways. Sometimes we stay at places. That's an example that Power 5 teams play. When we walk onto the floor, because of the deal with Nike and LeBron James, very rarely, will we take a back seat to anyone when it comes to footwear and the gear the caliber of uniforms that our players have on. And so that's very, very important too, because of that stigma that you're HBCU, you have less, you're less than. So our players have gone on some great trips during my tenure here. And again, the MTEs oftentimes allow you an opportunity to do that. I'll give one more example to your comment about you will schedule a game where it would provide some money, but it'll be less money than you'll get from a Power 5 team, but a game that your chances of beating that team would be greater at the same time. So you're getting a lesser payday, but a payday nonetheless, but a more realistic chance to win. During the 2021 season, that was against Austin Peay. And I might add, at the time, it wasn't known, but one of those players we played against is now in the NBA on Austin Peay that played for Austin Peay during that season. So we went in there, got a nice payday and a win at the same time. That word I say that best represents this challenge is historic. Can you imagine, Mickey, with some of those young men and women from UCLA and USC, Arizona? Can you imagine when they travel to some of those programs in Mississippi? Forget
Look at it. See, you need to stop. See, you need to stop. You need to stop. Oh.
So let me make sure that I want to add to that statement so that I don't in no way, shape, form, obviously am I throwing dirt on southern states, Mississippi and Alabama. I was born and raised in Alabama. Proud of where I am. But my point is, many of those guys that played in the state of California or the state of Washington, if they didn't play at the Peach Jam in Augusta, Georgia, Mickey,
Right,
or maybe some event in Orlando,
they have no idea what they're going to experience.
They have not traveled to the Deep South.
Right.
And it's going to be an awakening. It's going to be different.
They don't envision. I mean, Coach, I've had recruits from California that when you're talking to them on the phone, they held up the phone and talking to their dad, and they'll say like, "Dad, you hear that?" And they're like, "What?" Silence, no gunshots, and you're like, "Wow!" And they're like, "Dad, I think I could be a lot safer in this environment because they grow up in different environments.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And you could go on and on about the experiences and the differences that are real, those that are imagined, and so forth. In addition to the basketball game, so this setup, I think last year maybe 4 or 5 teams played the SWAC challenge. We obviously played at Oregon. I want to say maybe Colorado went to Grambling. I think
The
maybe
SWAC won one of those games last year.
they won 3. They won 3 games. Arizona State, Colorado got beat at Grambling. I think maybe Arizona State maybe got beat at Texas Southern. I can't remember the third, but I think there were 3 wins by SWAC teams. Mm-hmm. Now, all 3 of those were at SWAC locations.
Right.
But again, nonetheless, that's still a huge accomplishment.
Especially considering each one of them didn't really draw well. That's one of the things that we want to do is draw people to the Lawson Center when Oregon comes.
You're being nice. When you say they didn't draw well. Grambling, Colorado, a Friday night, less than 1,000 people. Now, I want to check for a moment, Mickey, on the educational component, the cultural component. For example, last year, the day before we played Oregon, both teams, the entire coaching staffs, half of Oregon's athletic administration, led by the athletic director, Rob Mullet, we all got together for a seminar. And the purpose of the seminar is for my staff and our team to enlighten Oregon student athletes and non-athletes on what the culture is like at an HBCU. That Oregon's head coach Dana Altman was in. I talked about the impact of our band, not only the 100, but just the pep band. And I purposely said, I said, now, when you all come, coach, it's going to be different. I said, we put that band right next to the visitors' bench. And so again, but the number of ideas that we shared, the questions that some of Oregon players had, was really kind of goes back to what this part of this contract of games, basketball games, were all about. Now, to give you another example, Oregon has notified me and my staff several months ago. They're bringing approximately 10 non-student athletes, 10 Black students across the country to spend 2, 3, 4 days on our campus. Because it's informative. It's educational. They want to learn about life, the culture of an HBCU. And I think too, Mickey, I think we'll have fans, maybe not necessarily FAMU fans, but I think just people who love the game of basketball, who have respect for the Oregon brand, which is one of the top 15 brands in college sports. I think we'll have people coming to campus to see that game that perhaps rarely step foot on our campus.
McCullum, we need people to buck the tradition of waiting until January to go see the basketball teams play. You know, y'all get in that mentality that it's football season and you can't do 2 things at once. Yes, you can. You know, Oregon is in town. We need to be over there to support them. We should be in the house. The snake pit needs to be a dangerous place. And this is Mickey Clayton issuing a challenge. We need everybody in there. My staff and I will be there. We'll be supported. And we're wishing the Rattlers much success in this upcoming season.
Wow. That's a lot. That was a lot. Coach, great interview. And I'm not trying to be like Coach Mack and saying, you sound like a coach. But he did say something that was pretty interesting to me. as a reporter or as a former college reporter as well, that you guys up in Tallahassee and all around, y'all need to step up your game a little bit because coach wants intelligent questions and not just canned questions. Couple of things, coach. I need to throw at you. I need to throw at you. How big is this Oregon game? I mean, because this doesn't happen too often where Power Five comes to Tallahassee on this side of the track.
It's significant as we continue to grow our brand, and teams and people have to feel like they can come on these HBCU campuses and be treated with respect, be in a fair and safe environment, and the thing that they fear is not exclusive to HBCUs in terms of they don't want to lose to somebody if they're not another Power Five school. So the way they look at playing at HBCU is the same way they would look at going to play at Georgia State or Georgia Southern. They don't want to be in a position to lose to what they feel is a lesser opponent. So whenever they play us, one, it's always early in the season, and they play us as a way to tune up for the season. We don't ever get them later in the season. We always get them in the first couple of weeks. We don't get them as our team is rolling pretty good and being confident and running the system. We rarely have those opportunities. But it's very significant to have that contest on our campus and to try to have people in there to support the game. You heard him say that it was less than 1,000 for Grambling. You know, that's significant. But traditionally, we really don't get out and support basketball until the new year. I'm telling you what I know. I mean, even administration wouldn't want us to schedule games and stuff till after January because they needed a rest from football.
Wait a minute. Administration needed rest.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that, coach. I didn't hear that. I really didn't hear that at all.
Oh,
Goodness, that is crazy. Hey, look, as far as scheduling, Coach McCullum did with what is it? The MTE?
MTE.
MTE. That was my first time hearing about that, and that's pretty cool. I like that. But who
Rick,
has
that was the way they put together playing more games in your schedule. And one of the things that they did, the way it's worded, is you have, I think he said 10 to 15 days to complete what they call the MTE, multiple team event, which means it doesn't necessarily have to be a weekend tournament or a holiday tournament. You could put it together where you play 2 teams over the weekend and you might play 2 more teams next weekend. And at the end of the day, it only counts as 1 game against yours. So the more games you play, the more prepared your squad is. And teams that have larger travel budgets and things can do things like that.
Who has say so in the scheduling? Is it the coach or is it the AD? Or is it a combination?
The coach pretty much does it for basketball. Now with us, they generally tend to give us an amount of money that they want us to bring in on our game guarantees. And it's always interesting how that works. They might tell you they need you to bring $150,000 in, or might be $250,000 in guarantees. Well, there's a couple of really, really prominent programs that'll pay you 6 figures to come in. And so you might play them, but there's also some teams that do it and exceed what their budget mandate is, because we'll say if they have to bring $250,000 in, they may have it in their agreement or contract with the university that every dollar over $250,000 they split between the athletic department and the basketball team, or everything over $250 the basketball team could use. And so they end up using that to supplement coaches' salaries, to be able to use it for recruitment of your recruiting budget. And then there's schools that tell the coach if you go over, you just go over and thank you. So they tend not to go over too much because it's not really advantageous to them to do that for the school. And they start off 0-10 and everybody say they don't know what they're doing.
And for those who don't know, Coach Clayton, if you don't know where you've been, geez, Coach Clayton coached Florida A&M's women's basketball, started the women's program, and led the men's program to the NCAA tournament. So he would know this. This is why I'm asking him these questions. My last one, really, Coach, is this, and you've said this. I've heard you say this in the past, but I hadn't had a chance to really talk to you about the guarantee games because you had mixed. If I'm getting it right, you had mixed feelings about guarantee games and playing them. And Coach Mack spoke about it a little bit about the psyche and didn't want to damage the players and all that. Was that your reason as well, or did you just have other reasons why you didn't like guarantee games?
Well, I fussed with Dr. Humphreys about it. And because everybody was so protective of the football team doing it, even to today. But they would require the basketball team to do it. And Dr. Humphreys, he said, hell, Mickey, in basketball, we Division I. And football, at the time, said, we 1AA. But in basketball, I want to know how far my program is away from being an elite program. So I need to know.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. But I didn't like the guarantee games because if you take a typical program, you take the Power 5 schools, they play a lot of smaller schools to get your team confidence up. And at the end of the day, when the guys aren't winning, they always look at the coach. All the guys are good enough to play in the NBA. But so you can't tell them it's on them. You went 1 for 15 from the 3, but it's coach's fault. So,
point guard had 7 turnovers, but it's your fault.
Coach, I was open. You always open. They don't guard you for a reason. So, but one of the things I wanted to say was they played the prelim game to Caitlin Clark. You just did a piece on her about 2 weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah, the start of women's basketball. Yeah, them pulling in 50,000 plus at the football stadium. Oh man! And I was thinking when he said that, I was like, will they get a chance to stay and watch at least a half? I'm sure he'll let them. Because he said they're staying at the same hotel, so. But they got to get some rest for the next day because they're playing the next day, and they got to do. He'll figure it out, I'm sure. That was good, Coach. And for those who missed it or want to see the entire interview, check out our channel on YouTube. The whole interview will be up. Coach Mack is something else. I love that dude. Great. I agree with him though. Great interview, Coach. That was pretty damn good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell him. Tell him. Tell him.
Oh,
You are listening to Mr. Kids.
Like us on Facebook.
I liked it on Facebook.
Follow us on Twitter. INSiiGHTS.
Yeah.
2 I's in the middle. INSiiGHTS.
All right, y'all.
yes,
All
sir.
right,
Yes,
y'all.
sir.
All right, y'all. Right there. Right there. Hit us up. Hey, you make sure
Hit us
you get
up.
it. You make sure you get on there. Make sure you do that. And folks, the important being a college basketball fan, November 20th, it's a Monday. I don't know how I'm gonna pull this off, but the last time a Power Five team has played FAMU in Tallahassee was Auburn, and that was in 94, 95, and that was at the Civic Center. That wasn't on campus. This is deep. This is big. Hey, FAMU, show up and show out, baby. You know how you do it. This is time to show up and show out, baby. And you're coming
True
right off
word.
the classic weekend too. Show up and show out.
Oh, I couldn't have said it any better. Couldn't have said it any better.
Uh,
So I got to be there for that.
um, tell, tell them about the camp again, Coach. Tell them about the camp.
Oh, we got that Leadership Day camp coming up November 21st, 22nd. That Monday and Tuesday Thanksgiving week. You know, those of you who got to go to work, you can bring your children to us. INSiiGHTS and GBL working together to provide a safe place and environment. You can go to our website and get some information on it. We're all over social media. But the deadline for registering your youngin' is a week from Monday on the 13th. So you need to come on and get in while it's
Don't
getting.
wait to the last minute. Don't wait to the last minute, folk. Get in now. Because get in now, or you might miss your spot. Sorry.
Exactly. Exactly.
Got to tell it like it is, Coach. Got to tell it like it is.
Oh man, we appreciate that. Rick, it was a good show tonight.
Good job. Good job. Yes, 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 yes. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Until next time.
Thank
Oh. Coach Bobby Knight passed away at 83.
today.
Speaking of college basketball, Coach Bobby
Wow.
Knight.
Wow.
Yeah, he was crazy, but he was a hell of a coach. Um, our sympathies out to his family.
Wow, absolutely. I went
And
to
that's all I have.
a camp he had, and in only the language that Bobby Knight could use, he'd say, "You high school and middle school coaches, y'all some bitches are the ones who could coach." He said, "I got to go out. I can find my players. I can get talent. You, on the other hand, you got to coach what you got."
What you got?
And truer words were not spoken. So that's our breaking news story. In South Carolina State's AD resigned effective immediately during homecoming week. Shades of us losing our football coach homecoming week one year. She being in the South Carolina State Hall of Fame, Keisha Campbell worked in the CIAA office, has a lot of experiences. So, you know, those turnovers and things that are going on, man, you know, it had to be rough for her to do what she did homecoming week because it's her homecoming too.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We would always tell people when homecoming was coming, you know, for most of us on campus, we FAMU people, so it's our homecoming too. And I keep saying, Dr. Hammonds said, man, when you were younger, it used to take you 2-3 days to recuperate from homecoming. Now I take 2-3 weeks. And he
Truer
was
statement has never been made.
Stay up to date with the latest from INSiiGHTS. Visit our website at INSiiGHTS.com. 2 eyes in the middle. INSiiGHTS.
INSiiGHTS is a copyright of Mac4 Enterprises, a Florida corporation. This broadcast is produced under the exclusive ownership of Mac4 Enterprises and is the intellectual property and trademark of Mac4 Enterprises. Comments of the host and other individual speakers on INSiiGHTS represent their independent thoughts and representation.
all right. Download us. Go ahead, Rick. Yeah, download us on your
Tell 'em.
phone.
Tell them.
Apps
Do
are
it.
free.
Apps are free.
Yes, sir. With no further away than your fingertips. Absolutely.
Mm.
Rick, I appreciate you. I see you with that. Let me see that hat again. Mick and Rick, classic on education.
Yes,
Go ahead,
indeed.
Rick.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, shout out to the Rattlers for winning the Swackies, getting to the SWAC championship game. Congratulations, football team. Your first SWAC, first of I know many Swackies titles.
And we're looking at a home game for the SWAC championship.
December 2nd, Bragg Memorial Stadium. We brag differently. I tell you, Oregon SWAC championship. Tallahassee is the place to be.
You better tell somebody. Peace, y'all.
We out. Yo, yo.